In the beginning, before you or me, before civilization, before people, before the earth and the sky, there was chaos. A primordial being halfway between an individual and an abstraction. For millennia, chaos simply existed, floating around in the endless void. Eventually, though, chaos began to tire of their tedious existence. What was their purpose, their reason to be? Why were they there, and why was there no one else with them? They did not have to wait much longer, however, as another being began to form before their eyes. This being's name was Gaia. Gaia was the earth, but not as you might imagine it. She was not the trees or the lakes or the mountains or streams. She was the earth itself, the dirt and mud and the rock beneath. She was the body of the planet itself, and after her followed Tartaros, dark ruler of the depths below Gaia, and fair Eros, who unnerves the limbs and overcomes the mind and wise counsels of all gods and all men. Love. As the first act in this new world, Gaia and Chaos came together to make Uranos, the sky to blanket Gaia on all sides. Gaia then swept up Uranos, and together they had the 12 mighty titans, Koios, the north, Hyperion, the east, Krios, the south, and Iapetos, the west. Okeanos, to fill the many valleys and create oceans, and the twisted Kronos. Bright Thea, kind Rhea, Themis the just, the intelligent Mnemosyne, bubbly Tethys, and gold-crowned Phoebe. Again they lay, and this time came the one-eyed Cyclopes, Brontes, Steropes, and Arges. And after them the Hecatoncheires, with their 100 hands and 50 faces, Kotos, Briareos, and Gyes. Uranos, however, couldn't stand the ugliness of the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, and so he chained them up and imprisoned them in the deepest pits of Tartaros, where not even the idea of light could make its way down to them. Gaia was outraged by this and immediately rushed to her other children, the Titans, with a plan. She told them what Uranos had done to their brothers and held up a mighty sickle with which they would right the wrong that had been done. All of the Titans were filled with fear at the thought of standing up to their father. All except for one. Kronos grabbed the sickle and rallied his brothers and sisters, and with this their plan set into motion. Gaia sent an invitation to Uranos, claiming to have forgiven him and wanting to reconcile. As they sat down at the dining table, the Titans of north, east, south, and west hid behind pillars, waiting for their father to drop his guard. Gaia began to apologize, and right when he was most relaxed, they struck, and then, taking his time and savoring the moment, Kronos walked up behind his father with sickle in hand. Uranos struggled, and as he caught sight of Kronos behind him, he yelled out to the heavens that, like Kronos had betrayed him, one day Kronos' child would do the same to him. Kronos stabbed the blade through his father's face and proceeded to desecrate his body, cutting it up into pieces. Then, as further humiliation, Kronos took one particular piece of his father and threw it into the ocean. From where it landed, the sea began to froth and foam, and from the foam was born a lovely and terrible goddess, Aphrodite. Gaia went up to Kronos and took him to the place where his siblings had been chained and asked him to free them. Kronos, in his twisted mind, saw them not as brothers, but as potential usurpers, and refused to unchain them. Kronos returned to his new palace on Mount Othrys, where he took the Titaness Rhea as his wife and took her to his bed. Not forgetting the dying words of his father, when Rhea eventually gave birth to her first child, he grabbed it and swallowed it so that it could not rise against him. He proceeded to do this 4 more times until eventually Rhea gave up hope and sought out Gaia for advice. Together, they concocted a plan. This time, however, she swapped out the baby for a rock. She presented this rock to Kronos, and without looking, he downed it in one bite. Once Kronos had left the throne room, she jumped up and gathered the actual baby and took him to a place as far away from Mount Othrys as possible. Here in Crete was the baby Zeus raised, taught of his destiny and trained to fight. He trained for many years before eventually his mother Rhea returned and told him of her plan and his role. He was to walk up to Mount Othrys and offer to be the cupbearer to Kronos himself. And so, young Zeus walked up to the palace, and Kronos, not recognizing him, gave him the job. He walked around the party, serving drinks, but reserving one for his target. As Kronos spotted him, he walked over and greeted his cupbearer and took the glass. He gulped it down, having no reason to suspect foul play, and as soon as the liquid hit his system, he doubled over, and as the poison took effect, waves and waves of vomit poured out of his mouth, and with them, all 5 of the children he had swallowed. The other Titans ran in fear, and in the confusion, Zeus grabbed his siblings, and they made their escape. Zeus explained the rest of the plan to his siblings, and, much to the delight of Gaia, they rushed to the prison where the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires were being kept and finally freed them. The Cyclopes were overjoyed to at last be released and agreed to forge weapons more powerful than anything ever before seen for the gods. It was a long and brutal fight. The Titans had numbers, but the gods had the power of the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires backing them up. They fought for centuries on end, but eventually, the gods came out victorious. With a mighty thunderbolt, Zeus cleaved the top off of Mount Othrys, and the gods took up residence on the new tallest mountain, Mount Olympus.